Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Conservative opposition, I want to welcome our friends from the United States and Mexico to Ottawa for the third round of negotiations. This is an important trade agreement for Canada because 1 out of every 5 jobs in Canada depends on trade. So Conservatives are in an unusual situation in that we support the government in their efforts to secure a good deal with NAFTA. The U.S. Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, are Conservative achievements. So unlike when they were negotiated and the Liberals opposed these agreements, we support them and we support the government's efforts with respect to getting a deal for Canada. As the official opposition, however, we do have some concerns, and they've been consistent since the first round, and they seem to be consistent in the third round as they stand now. We do not see the government fighting for key industries to the level we would expect. As an Ontario MP, I've not heard the government yet articulate the importance of the auto industry and a fair and successful rules of origin outcome for the 140,000 Canadians that work in the auto and auto parts industry. The auto industry itself served as the starting point for free trade. The auto pact was the model that became a North Americanized industry, and that should still be the case with renegotiated NAFTA. Softwood lumber, resource industry, agriculture, we've yet to see the government articulate clear objectives for Canada in these negotiations. Perhaps that will come out in the next few days. We hope it will. But until then, our main concern with Canada's priorities in the NAFTA negotiations has been a lack of focus on employment and jobs. When Minister Freeland laid out her priorities for Canada a month and a half ago, before the first round of negotiations, she did not mention the importance of the auto industry and rules of origin for automobiles and auto parts. She did not mention the resource sector or softwood lumber, for instance. There's almost 1 million jobs indirectly related to trade in just those 3 areas alone. So we've seen an absence of time spent and absence of emphasis by the government. If you look at Secretary Ross's report that the Americans are relying on for auto release last week, they are certainly trying to set the table to suggest that the current situation in NAFTA is unfair. When that's not the case, we should be refuting statistics that we have difficulty with. We should be setting the table ourselves, particularly when the table is in Ottawa for this round of negotiations, to show how American companies benefit from current situation with respect to auto parts or assembly in Ontario. So we want to see more of an emphasis on these key industries by the government, because I think that sets the environment from which collaboration, negotiation take place. My own personal feeling is that because Canada has been championing a range of issues, the Americans have not yet heard the issues they want to drive to a conclusion on. So that's probably why we're in the third round of negotiations, and there's a sense with some of the Canadian negotiators that the Americans have not outlined their priorities yet. It's because we didn't try and meet on those key priorities from day one. I think that's a shortcoming. As I said, if the government changes their focus and starts talking about the importance of a North American integrated auto industry, you'll hear praise from the Conservative government, because we want to see a good outcome for those industries.
So do you think they focused on the wrong things, i.e. labor standards, environmental standards, gender equity? I'm just trying to guess what you're saying. What do you say?
I think those are all very important things, but in a time where the new U.S. president and even the last U.S. president did not put a price on carbon like Mr. Trudeau is doing, to think that in the context of NAFTA negotiations they will suddenly do that, I think is naive. So if we're using negotiating time on issues that we're likely not going to reach an outcome, that is crowding out issues that we need to be fighting for. So I'd like to see the Minister and the Prime Minister fighting for industries like auto, like softwood, like our supply managed sectors, to make sure we drive towards a successful outcome.